So in today's episode, I'm going to be talking about my camera history and hopefully inspire you to kind of pick up your first camera or maybe help you choose what one is best for you. I'm back on the couch after last week's episode because I found it very comfortable to record my videos from. It's very nice and plush. And before I start this episode, I'd kindly like to ask you, if you can, doesn't matter if you don't want to, but please subscribe to this channel and like this video, as it really helps and I'd appreciate it so much. So, you know, I'm not pressuring you to do it, but if you do, thank you very much. So I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail about how I got into photography and filmmaking. I want to save that for a podcast that I've had planned with my friends Ben and Adrian. If it doesn't happen, I'm going to blame it on them too. But if it does happen, I'll keep you updated and hopefully it will happen soon. But that will go more in depth and we'll talk more about photography and filmmaking between the three of us and hopefully come up with some cool projects that we can film and put out on YouTube. So without further ado, let's start off with my camera history. The first camera I really want to talk about is the Nikon D80. It was the first digital SLR camera that I ever used properly. My brother bought it and then I kind of borrowed it and used it quite a lot actually, probably more so than he did. But we were influenced by our cousin Lewis, who lives in Australia, and he was very into photography, very good photographer. And he used the Nikon system, so we adopted that. But I use this camera for a lot of projects, and I mainly used it in the auto or aperture priority mode, but it started getting me to grips with how actual cameras work and how to get a bit more creative with the whole essence of photography. So I used it to capture a lot of lifestyle stuff, so I would take it to parties with us, or I'd go to see bands and take pictures of them, etc. I took a lot of memories with that camera, so that's why it's an important part of my life in terms of my journey of photography. So after graduating uni, I had this dream of starting a little production company with my friends. So my buddy Jordan and I, we invested in a couple of cameras. We both got a Canon XH1. So for those of you who don't know, it's a HD camera that filmed onto mini DV tapes. So to capture it onto the computer, you had to play it on the camera and then crop your in and outs points and then capture it into the editing software of your choice. A very convoluted way of doing things. So this was a good workhorse camera. We filmed a lot of things with it, you know, bands, parties, and DJs, etc. So it was a great camera, and then we kind of pushed it to its limits. But you know, life kind of took over. You know, we had to pay the bills, 9-to-5 job took over, and then eventually things started wearing out. But then the age of digital SLRs that could film started coming in. You know, with the Canon 5D, that was like a game changer, how you could film decent footage and have interchangeable lenses on a small body. We didn't have the money to kind of invest in that system, so we kind of just died out a little bit, and I sold on my camera, and then, you know, I went back more into the photography side of things. So as I was taking a lot of snaps with the Nikon D80, I was hunting around and looking at a film camera. And when I say film, I mean like 35 negative film that you put in the back of the camera and shoot onto that. So while I was at my parents' house, I found this little camera in the cupboard, and it's a Canon AE1, which is a great starting off 35mm SLR camera. What's great about it is it's fully manual. You know, you've got your shutter speed on top of here, then you've got your aperture on the lens, and then you can dial in what speed film you want, and then, you know, obviously that's up to you what you buy. But this was a great tool because I actually had to think how to use a camera, because, you know, it costs money to develop film, to print it, and then it takes time to scan it in. So you're really taking your time and focus to frame your image perfectly, make sure all the settings are dialed in before you hit that shutter button. If you're going to start out in photography, I recommend getting something like this and just really experimenting, because you're going to take your time rather than having a digital SLR where you can just put it into auto and let the camera do all the work for you, and then you just focus on framing. But yeah, this is a poignant moment in my life when it came to photography. And again, I can highly recommend getting a 35mm SLR camera to practice on yourself. So as I was shooting a lot with 35mm film, there were times where I was like, I really would like the image straight away. And back then phones weren't doing it, you know, I had the old 3 iPhone and the image that you got back from it wasn't that great. So I wanted something better than a point and shoot, but not as chunky as a DSLR. That's where I started looking at Panasonic. At that time, I was really focused on Canon or Nikon, etc. You know, the big camera companies. This Panasonic GX1, it's a mirrorless camera, really compact. You can change the lenses if you want to. So I picked one up, and it wasn't that expensive at the time. This was kind of a game changer for me because I was like, actually, this takes really good photos. It's a small body. You're kind of getting similar to what I was getting from the Nikon D80. And I was obsessed with it. You know, I'd carry it everywhere with me with my 35mm. And as time went on, I invested in lenses. And then that's where I bumped up and got the GX8, which I have here now, and I still shoot with today. You know, I'll go out and photograph with this rather than taking my GH5, which I'm filming on right now. It's just a great system for what I wanted to use. You know, everyone's talking about getting a full frame mirrorless cameras now, but they're so expensive. They become very cumbersome. The lens systems are very heavy and very pricey, I must say. So that's why I stuck with the Micro Four Thirds system with Panasonic, and I love it really, and that's why I'm still filming with the GH5 now. So as I was starting to collect a lot more 35mm cameras, you know, they're very cheap online. There was one brand that stood out to me, and it was the dream camera. I've always wanted to get one. You know, they've always been expensive, but then when I hunted around on eBay, I found someone doing one for a good deal, and I thought, you know, I'm just gonna go for it, bite the bullet, because this is the camera I'm gonna keep for life. And here it is today. It is the Leica M6. I've been walking down the streets wearing this, and I've had so many people stop me and ask me, oh, what Leica's that? And you know, you start that conversation just because it is a timeless piece, and you know, they're the best camera system. And it's almost the reason why I went with the Panasonic, because they partnered with Leica to make different glass for the lenses, and you know, I've invested in their Leica glass system. It's a rangefinder, so it's a bit different from an SLR. It's almost like the mirrorless of 35mm cameras. It's a small body, really easy to use. Obviously, I'd love to get the digital version of this, but the one I want is the one without any screen on the back. So it looks similar to like this on the back, but that costs like £6,000 upwards, I think. So for me, that's just a lot of money to spend on a camera, but this has just been a beast. But obviously now in today's world, film is getting so expensive to develop, to buy, and then it just takes time to process. So, you know, you really have to savor these moments when you want to shoot on film, etc. That's the Leica M6, one of my favorite cameras. Well, it is my favorite camera in my collection, and yeah, this is just going to be with me for the rest of my life until I die, basically. To show off my last camera that's been a poignant moment in my life, I've had to switch over to the GX8 because I'm going to be talking about the GH5. I got this back in 2017 because I wanted to get back into video work, and I'm not going to lie, it's been an incredible workhorse. I've broken the back LCD screen. It's all taped at the back now, as you can see. I've been meaning to get it fixed, but I just can't part with it because I love filming on it for these YouTube videos. Maybe if this GX8 footage turns out all right, maybe I'll give it some time, go send it off, and then film with this camera. But you know, I've still got the same camera after 2017, and it's been going strong. Can't complain about it. It's got great options, so you can switch between photography, which I've taken loads on, and obviously shot loads of video, which I have done for this YouTube channel. Panasonic, if you've got a used GH5 lying around that you don't want anymore and you want to get rid of, please send it my way. That would be great. This has been my, not full collection, it's just the ones that really stood out to me and what helped me grow over the years as a photographer and filmmaker. But the reason I wanted to show you all my cameras and that moment is just to kind of show you that you don't need to invest in really expensive cameras and lens systems if you want to take great shots. You know, I've taken my GH5 underwater, taken some great cinematics with that, as you saw in my shark episode, which you can see up here if you want. And the other reason why I wanted to talk about my cameras is because I wanted to start posting again. You know, my Instagram account was solely focused on promoting my YouTube channel, and you know, I kind of fluctuated away from taking photographs. So I wanted to start up a new Instagram page and then eventually try and sell some prints online. But people get obsessed with wanting to buy the best technology. Is this cinematic enough? Is this thing? At the end of the day, it's just, what can you afford and what do you want to achieve from this? You know, obviously if you want to go professionally and take photographs, okay, maybe you might have to spend and invest a little bit more money on a system that's going to allow you to grow as you get better and better. But if you're just there as a hobbyist, then, you know, maybe a phone is just the best thing for you. That's it for today's episode. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and then subscribe to the channel if you want to follow along on Dan Escape's journey, and then any more information about my photography Instagram page and whether I'll be selling prints online somewhere. But yeah, thank you again for watching, and hope you're staying safe, staying positive, having fun, and I shall see you in the next one.